Hey there, sleepyheads, and welcome back to a quiet corner of history where the centuries melt away and the past whispers its secrets. As you settle deeper into the calm of this moment, know that tonight we're embarking on a journey back to medieval Europe, a time of stark contrasts, where the lives of the many were dictated by the few, and existence itself was a constant negotiation with the elements and the will of powerful lords. It's a world where the very act of waking up could be an entirely different experience, depending on where you stood in the grand immutable hierarchy. So, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together, beginning right at the very heart of daily existence in the most intimate space of all your home. You stir slowly from a sleep that was less about rest and more about sheer endurance. The profound gloom around you is not the inviting velvet of a modern bedroom, but a thick, cloying darkness, heavy with the scent of damp earth-stale breath and the cold, acrid remnants of last night's fire. Your mattress, a lumpy sack stuffed with straw groans beneath you, its contents likely more mould and dust than fresh hay, a shared refuge for your wife, your children, and perhaps even a tethered goat seeking the meagre warmth radiating from human bodies. In the periphery of your senses, you can almost feel the unseen occupants, the persistent fleas, the itchy lice, the scuttling mice, constant uninvited companions in your primitive dwelling. They are an accepted if uncomfortable fact of daily life, just another layer of the pervasive sensory discomfort that defines your every morning. There's no true window to let in the dawn, just a crudely covered opening in the wattle and daub wall admitting more frigid air than illumination, doing little to dispel the profound gloom. The walls themselves, rough and uneven, offer only scant defence against the biting winds and the relentless dampness that permeates everything. Tools hang sparsely on pegs, a rusty hoe, a worn basket, perhaps a spindle. Utilitarian objects that are an extension of your very being, your means of survival. There's no true privacy here, no quiet nook for individual contemplation. Every rustle, every cough, every whispered word is shared in this single communal room. You hear the rhythmic plink, plink, plink of water dripping from the poorly thatched roof into a tin bowl on the packed dirt floor. A familiar monotonous soundtrack to countless nights, and a stark reminder of your shelter's inadequacy. The chill seeps deep into your bones, a persistent ache that you've grown accustomed to an almost constant companion. It's the kind of cold that no amount of thin, coarse wool can truly ward off, a reminder of the unforgiving world outside and the constant struggle to maintain even a semblance of warmth. Even with the small fire from last night, the warmth quickly dissipated, leaving behind only the pervasive dampness and the memory of fleeting comfort. There's no proper chimney, just a hole in the roof, allowing most of the smoke to fill the hut before eventually escaping, often bringing in rain or cold drafts in return. This pervasive dampness makes genuine warmth elusive and true restful sleep an exercise in enduring discomfort and ongoing negotiation with the raw elemental forces around you. Your body protests the waking joints, stiff muscles heavy, knowing that the physical demands of the day are already waiting. You rise your muscles, protesting your joints stiff, the familiar ache already settling into your back and shoulders before the day has even properly begun. The thought of a soft, warm bed bathed in the clean scent of fresh linen and quiet, insulated walls is as fantastical as a dragon soaring overhead. Such comforts belong to the realm of fairy tales, or perhaps to another kind of human entirely. You shake your head slightly, a small gesture of resignation, and begin to prepare for another day of unending toil, knowing that for others, those at the very pinnacle of this rigid world, this very moment of waking is an entirely different, almost otherworldly experience. It's a testament to the unvarnished truth of medieval life. Comfort was not a right, but a privilege, and a rare one at that. The straw mattress beneath you is a landscape of lumps and hollows, a testament to countless nights of restless turning. You wouldn't call it comfortable. In fact, the word comfort feels like a distant alien concept, a luxury for a life you've never known. This isn't sleep for rest, you remind yourself, it's sleep for survival. Every shift of your weight sends a rustle through the dry, yet somehow still damp straw, releasing faint clouds of dust and the earthy scent of decay. You've long since stopped trying to figure out if the prickling sensation on your skin is just the rough straw or one of the many unseen inhabitants of your bed. You simply endure it, your body accustomed to the constant subtle irritation that defines your nightly retreat. This shared space isn't just for your immediate family. Your wife and children huddle close, their bodies a small precious source of warmth in the relentless cold. The close proximity is a necessity, a communal huddling against the indifference of the elements, creating a human tapestry of quiet breaths and rustling movements. And then there's the goat, perhaps, whose soft rhythmic breathing near the door adds to the chorus of sleep. You might find a curious, almost ironic relief in its presence on colder nights, its animal heat a small blessing against the biting chill, even if its own earthy scent adds another layer to the hut's pervasive aroma. Personal space is an idea for storytellers, not for the gritty reality of your world. Intimacy is born not of desire, but of sheer unyielding necessity, a silent pact against the harshness of the night. As the first faint light of day, or perhaps just a slight lessening of the profound darkness, begins to filter through the cracks of your crude dwelling, your eyes sting. This isn't from sleep deprivation alone. The absence of a proper chimney means that for much of the night, especially when the fire was burning, the hut filled with thick grey smoke. It clung to the rough wooden beams, permeated the few articles of wool clothing you own, and settled deep in your lungs. You wake with a dry, persistent cough, a familiar rasp that seems to echo through every household in the village. Your throat feels raw, and the bitter taste of soot lingers, a constant unpleasant reminder of the air you breathe. You'd think, wouldn't you, that the smoke would find a clear path out, but the poorly functioning hole in the roof, meant to be a rudimentary chimney, often serves an unfortunate double duty. It's a design flaw that you've long since come to accept as another unchangeable, maddening aspect of your existence. This same aperture that should vent the smoke also readily allows the rain to drip in, particularly during a storm. The plink, plink, plink you heard earlier is a direct consequence of this crude engineering, ensuring that the pervasive dampness is never truly banished. It's a vicious cycle that you're intimately familiar with. You light a fire for warmth, the smoke chokes you, the roof hole lets it out but also lets the cold and wet back in. Achieving genuine lasting warmth is a fleeting victory, often followed by the creeping dampness that seems to permeate every fibre of your being, chilling you from the inside out and exacerbating the aches in your joints. Sleep for you is rarely restorative. It's more of a brief cessation of conscious struggle, a temporary reprieve from physical labour, only to be punctuated by discomfort, the cold, the smoke, and the constant awareness of your precarious existence. You never truly feel clean, nor truly warm, nor truly rested, a testament to a life lived on the very edge of human comfort. In a reality far removed from your humble, smoke-filled hut, your waking is an entirely different affair. You stir not to the chill and damp, but within the luxurious confines of an enormous bed, a veritable cloud of comfort that seems to absorb all the harshness of the world. Heavy drapes of rich, deep velvet fall around you, blocking out any unwanted early morning light, creating a secluded sanctuary within your vast royal chamber. Beneath you, a mattress filled exclusively with the finest goose down, painstakingly collected by hand from specially raised fowl, cradles your body. You sink into it, a profound softness that is alien to the hard-packed earth and lumpy straw of another's world. The sheets, imported linen that whispers with every slight movement, feel cool and smooth against your skin, a stark contrast to the coarse wool and rough fabric that defines the attire of most. This isn't merely a place to sleep. It's a meticulously crafted environment designed for ultimate repose and sensory indulgence. As you slowly become aware, a subtle warmth permeates the air around you, a steady, gentle heat that has been maintained throughout the night. A dedicated servant, discreet and silent, has been feeding the chamber's grand fireplace with aromatic woods, perhaps birch for its clean, sweet scent, or cedar with its earthy, grounding notes. The air carries the faint, sweet smell of burning logs, not the acrid sting of your peasant counterpart's smoky hut, but a fragrance that is both comforting and a clear sign of cultivated luxury. This isn't a battle against the cold, it's an effortless envelopment in carefully managed warmth, a testament to the resources and manpower at your disposal. The very act of waking transforms into a luxurious sensory experience. There is no urgency, no immediate demand for backbreaking labour. Instead, you can luxuriate in the lingering warmth, the softness of the furs that line your bed, and the comforting scent of the fire. You don't have to wrestle with stiff joints or the lingering cough from a smoke-filled room. Your body feels rested, pampered, ready for a day that will demand a different kind of effort entirely. The silence of the chamber broken only by the gentle crackle of the fire and the faint rustle of your fine linens is a profound luxury in itself, a stark contrast to the constant murmur of communal living that defines life at the bottom of the social ladder. You're given the gift of a quiet, unhurried transition from sleep to wakefulness, a privilege that few in your realm would ever experience. You might stretch, feeling the expansive space around you, appreciating the sheer scale of the room. This chamber, with its high ceilings and solid stone walls, isn't just a shelter. It's a statement. Every detail, from the craftsmanship of the wooden bed frame to the quality of the fabric, speaks volumes about your status and wealth. You're in essence waking up in a living testament to your power, a physical manifestation of your elevated place in the universe. This isn't just about personal comfort, it's about the performance of royalty, even in the private moments of dawn. The air is clean, free from the pervasive damp and the smells of livestock or unwashed bodies. You breathe easily, deeply, a luxury that a peasant perpetually surrounded by the realities of their environment could only dream of. Your senses are treated to a curated experience, a gentle symphony of warmth, fragrance and soft textures, preparing you not for physical toil but for the intricate dance of governance and display that awaits. As the sun begins its ascent, it will soon bring a new layer of splendour to these carefully constructed surroundings, filtering through glass, not merely cracks. As you finally rise from the downy depths of your bed, the velvet drapes are drawn back by unseen silent hands, and the world beyond your immediate chamber reveals itself. It's a world not of stark utilitarian necessity, but of carefully constructed beauty and deliberate display. The morning sun, now higher in the sky, doesn't just illuminate, it paints. Filtered through vibrant stained glass windows, rich in blues, reds and golds, the light pours onto the polished stone floors in shimmering, intricate patterns. These aren't just windows. They are works of art transforming raw sunlight into a kaleidoscope of divine hues, bathing the meticulously curated spaces in an almost ethereal glow. You might find yourself moving towards the solar room, specifically designed to capture the sun's warmth and light a private retreat for reading contemplation, or perhaps a quiet discussion with a trusted advisor. This is a room that exists purely for comfort and intellectual pursuit, a concept that would be utterly alien to a peasant whose entire dwelling functions as a single, multi-purpose space for living, eating and sleeping, devoid of any such specialized luxury. Every surface in your environment is a testament to wealth and power, a constant subtle reinforcement of your elevated status. The walls are not bare stone, but often painted with intricate murals depicting heroic deeds, religious scenes, or the triumphs of your own esteemed lineage. Heavy tapestries, hand-woven with threads of silk and wool, not only adorn the walls, adding warmth and intricate patterns, but also serve as crucial insulation against the castle's inherent chill. These are not mere decorations. They are narratives woven in cloth proclaiming your history and your right to rule. Beneath your feet, hand-woven rugs from distant lands offer softness and dampen the echoing sounds of the stone. Another layer of comfort and opulent quietude. Polished silver platters, too gleaming to be merely functional, catch the light on ornate carved furniture, each piece a masterpiece of craftsmanship, not just a utilitarian object. This isn't just a living space. It's a conscious, undeniable display of controlled abundance, an atmosphere where every object reinforces your elevated station, a visual symphony of your domain. You're surrounded by beauty that the vast majority of your subjects could never even imagine, let alone possess. And then beyond the thick stone walls, your gaze might drift to the royal gardens, a meticulously cultivated landscape that mirrors the order of your court. These are not the utilitarian necessity-driven plots of your peasants, growing tough grains and root vegetables for sheer survival. No, your gardens are a masterclass in human dominion over nature, a symbolic representation of the order you impose upon your realm. Here you find meticulously curated spaces, ornamental herbs, not just for seasoning, but for their delicate fragrance and beauty, their leaves carefully pruned and shaped. Sculpted topiaries, living green statues, a testament to the gardener's skill, and endless hours shaping nature into geometric perfection, a gentle subjugation of the wild. And then there are the fountains, perhaps even imported from Italy, their graceful jets of water, a playful and extravagant display of engineering and wealth, a constant soothing murmur that speaks of peace and prosperity. You marvel at the sheer effort, the resources, the artistic vision required to maintain such an Eden, a truly impressive feat when you consider the rudimentary tools and knowledge of the era. These gardens are a stark, deliberate contrast to the wild hedgerows and muddy, unkempt fields that stretch for miles beyond your castle walls, reinforcing a sense of order and absolute control. They are a microcosm of your kingdom where everything, even nature itself, is in its appointed place, flourishing under your benevolent, albeit demanding gaze. It's a quiet yet profound declaration of power, a place where nature itself bends to your will and aesthetic. While your peasants toil in mud for every single morsel of food, you wander through paths designed for contemplation and pleasure, surrounded by beauty that serves no immediate purpose other than to exist and to reflect your grandeur. You might muse with a detached wit that even the flora and fauna understand their place in your grand hierarchy. This vision of controlled beauty, of abundant order, prepares you not for digging and sowing, but for a different kind of daily ritual, one that involves an even more explicit and elaborate display of abundance, your morning meal. Having forced down the hard, gritty bread, your attention now turns to the morning pottage. This isn't a dish to be savoured, but rather endured a thick, glue-like gruel that forms the very core of your daily sustenance. Its colour is a dull, unappetizing mud brown, a reflection of the varied, often ambiguous ingredients that have been thrown into the communal pot. You stir it with a wooden spoon, the mixture resisting its consistency heavy and unyielding. The smell is earthy and bland, sometimes carrying a faint vegetal bitterness, sometimes a yeasty tang from over-fermentation. It's the scent of sheer survival, utterly devoid of any inviting aroma, a stark contrast to the rich spiced perfumes emanating from the king's kitchens. You take a mouthful, and the texture is as unappealing as its appearance, a starchy, often slimy concoction punctuated by the occasional unpleasant husk or gristly bit you'd rather not identify. This pottage is a testament to the desperate creativity born of scarcity. It's made of whatever could be found, a constantly shifting roster of ingredients dictated by the season, the harvest, and the Lord's levies. Barley and oats form its base, cheap and hardy grains that can sustain life if not exactly nourish it. Interspersed with these grains you might find chunks of turnips, their sweetness a rare relief, or slivers of leeks offering a subtle oniony bite. But the key is that nothing goes to waste. Every edible scrap, every withered root, every forgotten stalk finds its way into the bubbling pot, a daily battle against the gnawing pangs of hunger. You learn to eat it without question, without expectation, understanding that its purpose is simply to fill the vast aching emptiness in your stomach, to provide just enough raw energy to face the relentless physical demands of the day. The scarcity of essential nutrients in your diet is a constant unspoken burden. While the pottage offers calories, it provides little in the way of vital protein or fats. Meat, that ultimate symbol of sustenance and celebration in other circles, is for you a truly rare luxury. You might remember perhaps once a month, if the finances align and luck is on your side, acquiring a fatty scrap from the tanner. This isn't prime cut, mind you, but the tough sinewy bits often considered waste by those who eat better. You boil it endlessly until it's soft enough to chew the process itself, an act of reverence, a pretend it's a feast moment that momentarily elevates your meagre existence. The children's eyes gleam with a mixture of excitement and disbelief when such a treat appears, a rare break in the monotonous procession of gruel and hard bread. But even these scraps are fleeting. Your pigs, if you are fortunate enough to own any, are usually sold off to meet your feudal obligations or to acquire essential goods rather than consumed by your own family. The same often applies to your chickens. While they might provide eggs in warmer months, their laying severely diminishes in winter, further cutting off a crucial protein source when you need it most. You learn to live without to suppress the craving for fat and protein that your body so desperately needs. The lack of these essential building blocks manifests in constant fatigue and slow-healing wounds, and in a susceptibility to the myriad illnesses that plague your village. You're always a little bit hungry, always a little bit tired, your body a finely tuned instrument of endurance but never truly thriving. The pottage in its mud-brown uniformity embodies this ongoing struggle, a daily reminder of a life perpetually teetering on the edge of insufficiency. You consume it spoon by laborious spoon, knowing that it's not enough, but it's all there is, and it's what allows you to endure until the next meagre meal. And just as this gruel is a staple, so too is the drink that accompanies every meal, a cloudy sour liquid far removed from pure water. You take a long, slow swallow of the ale, its familiar, slightly sour taste washing down the last of the pottage. This isn't a celebratory drink nor one for pleasure. It is quite simply your daily water. From dawn till dusk, for every meal and often in between, this weak, cloudy liquid is your constant companion, your most reliable source of hydration. You've long since accepted its unappetizing nature, the faint bitterness that coats your tongue, the cloudiness that makes it impossible to see the bottom of your unwashed mug. It's the taste of survival, a taste ingrained from childhood, far more familiar than the pure, crisp freshness of clean water, a taste you might only dream of or dimly remember from exceptionally rare untouched springs deep in the woods. The brewing of this ale is far from a meticulous craft. It's a rough, often haphazard process carried out in barrels that see little in the way of thorough cleaning. You'd prefer not to dwell on what might linger in the wooden staves, contributing to the ale's distinctive tang. The mugs you drink from are rarely properly scrubbed, perhaps rinsed with cold water, at best carrying the ghost of previous meals, adding to the communal, slightly unhygienic reality of your life. Yet you drink without hesitation. You know deep in your bones that this cloudy concoction, for all its unpleasantness, is safer than the alternative. It's a bitter pill to swallow, literally, but a necessary one to avoid far worse fates that could compromise your ability to labour. The streams and wells, the natural sources of water that crisscross your land, are often dangerously contaminated. Animal waste from livestock grazing upstream, human waste from rudimentary latrines, or simply the lack thereof, and the general runoff from a densely populated, unsanitized landscape, all contribute to a cocktail of invisible threats. You've seen firsthand the devastating effects of drinking bad water, the sudden fevers, the violent sickness that sweeps through a family, sometimes claiming the weakest members. It's a gamble you simply cannot afford to take, especially when your strength and health are your only true assets, your means of putting food on the table and fulfilling your obligations to the Lord. So you drink the ale, its mild fermentation, offering a layer of protection that raw water cannot, a small but vital shield against unseen dangers. To boil water, a theoretically safer alternative, is a luxury utterly beyond your reach. Firewood, you see, is not just fuel, it is a precious hard-won commodity. Every stick, every branch, every fallen log represents hours of back-breaking labour in the communal woods, or a valuable resource that must be purchased or bartered for. To consume it simply to boil water for drinking would be an unaffordable drain and act of sheer wastefulness that would compromise your ability to cook meals to keep your hut barely warm during the frigid nights, or even to pay your share of the village's collective wood collection for the Lord's fires. The opportunity cost is too high, the risk of freezing or going hungry too great. So the weak sour ale becomes your practical, if unappetizing, solution, a vital part of every single meal, a testament to the harsh economic realities that dictate even the most basic acts of survival. You might feel a slight dulling warmth spreading through your body after a few mugs, a barely perceptible fuzziness around the edges of your thoughts. It's not enough to truly intoxicate, not enough to forget your troubles entirely, but it's just enough to take the sharp edge off the day's relentless demands, to make the ceaseless labour feel marginally less harsh. It's a small passive comfort in a world bereft of many others. The taste, the texture, the ever-present knowledge of its necessity, it all blends into the fabric of your daily existence, as mundane and essential as breathing itself. While you consume this murky brew for survival, those above you on the social ladder are partaking in a morning ritual that celebrates not just sustenance, but an extravagant, almost unbelievable display of abundance, a sensory feast that defines the very zenith of medieval culinary opulence. You simply wouldn't believe the difference. While your peasant self concluded a meal of gritty bread and sour ale a world away in the sunlit halls of your castle, your royal counterpart prepares for a dining experience that transcends mere sustenance. For you, the king meals are not simply an act of eating. They are theatrical events, grand spectacles meticulously choreographed to impress, to display power, and to confirm your divine right to rule. The preparation alone is an empire unto itself, a testament to the immense resources and specialized labor at your command. Vast castle kitchens, sprawling complexes of stone and fire buzz with activity, not by a single cook, but by specialized departments, each dedicated to a particular culinary art. One team might manage the roaring spits, another the delicate pastries, yet another the intricate sauces, a culinary bureaucracy far more organized and productive than many a small village. The sheer variety of foods laid before you is almost overwhelming, a dizzying array designed to tantalize every sense and affirm your limitless bounty. You might gaze upon spit-roasted boars, their skins glistening and crisp, a prime cut of meat that represents a season's worth of a peasant's valuable livestock. Herbed venison hunted from your own expansive forests fills the air with its rich, gamey aroma infused with rosemary and thyme. Wild birds, from delicate quails to plump pheasants, are cooked with a sophistication utterly unknown to the common folk, braised in rich wines and infused with exotic cloves, their flesh tender and fragrant. Every dish, from the grandest centerpiece to the smallest side, is crafted to perfection, a feast for the eyes as much as the palate. Even the simplest staples are transformed into luxuries. The bread before you is not the hard, dark, gritty sustenance of the peasants, but soft, pristine white manchi bread made from the finest, purest wheat flour, painstakingly sifted and baked to a perfect airy lightness. You break off a piece, its texture, a revelation, a silent declaration of your ability to command the best. Beside it, elaborate pies, their crusts intricately decorated with heraldic symbols or fantastical beasts, promise rich, savoury fillings, perhaps of spiced game or succulent fish. Each piece of culinary art is a deliberate statement, reminding all present of the limitless resources and skilled hands that serve your every whim. And then there are the smells. Oh, the smells. They're a symphony of the exotic and the opulent, a direct counterpoint to the bland, earthy scents of peasant fare. Every dish carries the rich, intoxicating aroma of spices, nutmeg, ginger, cinnamon, saffron. Not just hints, but generous, confident infusions. You inhale deeply the complexity of these fragrances, a testament to vast distances and immense wealth. You see these spices not merely culinary enhancements. They are precious commodities, literally more expensive than gold in this era. Their presence on your table in such lavish quantities is a potent display of your immense wealth, your far-reaching trade networks, and your ability to command luxury from every corner of the known world. It's a statement that transcends taste, speaking volumes about your economic power and global reach. A stark, almost absurd contrast to the raw ingredients and basic flavours that define the meals of your subjects. Your palate, unlike that of the masses, is constantly stimulated, never bored an endless journey through flavours and textures. The very act of eating becomes a ritual of power, an unbroken chain stretching from distant lands directly to your royal table, a symbol of divine favour manifest in every bite. This daily spectacle is not just about hunger, but about hierarchy, a physical, undeniable proof of your elevated status, a testament to the boundless abundance that flows into your domain. Your royal table is not just laden with the finest meats and spices, it is a living map of the known world, a testament to your far-reaching influence and the seamless flow of goods into your coffers. Among the elaborate dishes you might find bowls overflowing with figs, their sticky sweetness, and vibrant purple skins, a direct import from the sunny climes of Iberia. A sip of wine from Aquitaine, deep and rich, transports you with its complex flavours, a far cry from the cloudy weak ale that sustains your peasant subjects. These exotic imports aren't merely ingredients. They're powerful symbols of status, of your ability to command trade routes, to levy taxes that fund such distant journeys, and ultimately a visible manifestation of divine favour. It's as if God himself has personally ensured the bounty of your table, affirming your rightful place at the apex of this world. You, the king, are not simply eating. You're embodying the very wealth and power of your realm, with every bite a stark reminder of the global reach your position affords. Your feasts are legendary, not just for their culinary extravagance, but for their duration and their highly ritualistic nature. These are not quick utilitarian affairs. They are long drawn-out spectacles, often stretching for 3 to 4 hours. Each course, a performance, each dish, a carefully orchestrated act. Between the main courses, you're entertained by entremets, edible, often elaborate displays designed to amuse and astound. Imagine, if you will, a miniature castle crafted entirely from pastry, complete with working drawbridges and tiny edible knights. Or perhaps a grand pie brought to your table with great ceremony, from which upon its crust being cut a flock of live birds flutters out, startling the less composed guests and delighting the court. You're almost certainly not eating the sugar castle, but merely admiring its ephemeral glory. These are not for mere consumption, but for demonstration, for awe, for cementing your image as a ruler of boundless imagination and resources. You take only a few ceremonial bites perhaps of a particularly choice cut, or an especially rare fruit. Your primary role is to be seen to preside, to embody the feast itself, rather than to consume every morsel placed before you. It's a performance of effortless abundance, a testament to the fact that you do not need to devour, you simply command. This leads to a stark, almost unbelievable caloric disparity that defines the very health of your kingdom. While you, the king, and your nobility might casually pick at a roasted lark or sample a rich spice pie, consuming upwards of 4,000 calories a day from a diet rich in fats, proteins, and refined carbohydrates, your peasant subjects are battling for every single calorie. They toil endlessly in the fields, performing physically demanding labour from dawn till dusk, yet their diet, predominantly grain-based pottage and hard bread, provides a meagre 500 to 2,000 calories. This immense difference in sustenance, coupled with the vast chasm in physical exertion, paints a vivid and often uncomfortable picture of medieval health. You move little aside from ceremonial duties and the occasional hunt, while your peasants' bodies are constantly pushed to their limits, fueled by barely enough to survive. The direct consequence of this overindulgence, a peculiar ailment almost exclusive to your class, is gout. You might notice your fellow nobles, or perhaps even experience it yourself, the sudden excruciating pain in a big toe or another joint, hot, swollen and tender to the slightest touch. It's a disease born of a diet rich in red meat, rich wines and sugars, a literal rich man's disease. While your subjects waste away from hunger disease and relentless labour, you or your peers suffer from the excesses of your station. It's a peculiar irony, isn't it? The very abundance that defines your life, that symbolises your divine favour, can lead to ailments of its own. A testament to a life lived without want, yet not without its own unique forms of suffering. You manage your gout with the best physicians money can buy, who will prescribe special diets or even bleedings, a luxury of care utterly unimaginable to a peasant. This fundamental imbalance, manifest even in the very diseases you contract, is a silent yet undeniable marker of the immutable divide. While your body is pampered, adorned, and at times afflicted by too much, your peasant subjects are engaged in a constant losing battle against perpetual uncleanliness, a reality that makes modern notions of hygiene seem utterly alien. While the king's body is massaged and attended to steeped in the fragrances of exotic woods and imported spices, your reality as a peasant offers no such delicate ministrations. You awaken already unclean the accumulated dirt of yesterday's labour, and indeed many yesterdays before that clinging to your skin nestled under your fingernails and woven into the very fabric of your coarse wool tunic. It's not just on you. It's of you a pervasive, unnoticed companion that has become so intrinsically a part of your daily existence that you rarely even register its presence. The rough texture of your skin, perpetually chapped and calloused from work, holds the grime deep within its lines, a living testament to a life lived in constant contact with the earth. You don't often feel truly clean because the very concept of thorough cleanliness, as understood in a more modern context, simply doesn't exist for you. Your morning ritual for personal care is a stark, almost brutal affair, a far cry from the perfumed waters and soft cloths of the royalty. You splash half-frozen murky water from a corner bucket onto your face, and hands the shocking cold a painful sting against your skin. It's a jolt that wakes you more effectively than any conscious effort, a sharp, visceral reminder of the harsh world you inhabit. The water itself, often murky, and still does little more than displace the top layer of grime. You rub your face vigorously, feeling the grit and the cold, but when you look at your reflection in the barely rippling surface, or simply wipe your hands on your trousers, you recognise the truth. You're not clean, but you're clean enough for another day of labour. The cold sting is momentary. The underlying layer of dirt and the faint, earthy smell of yourself persist, an ever-present part of your being. This rudimentary ablution is more symbolic than effective, a ritual gesture to acknowledge the dawn rather than a genuine act of hygiene. Soap, that seemingly ubiquitous item of modern life, is for you a rare and coarse commodity. It's not a daily luxury, nor even a weekly one. If your household is lucky enough to possess a small lye-based bar, it is reserved for special occasions, perhaps for washing clothes after a particularly muddy season, or for a quick stinging scrub before a major church festival. The very act of using it often leaves your skin feeling raw, sometimes even developing small painful blisters from its harsh chemical composition. You learn quickly that it's a tool for specific tasks, not a comfort, and certainly not something to be used for daily personal cleansing. The cost of such a commodity too is prohibitive, a drain on your meagre resources that could otherwise be used for food or firewood. Your oral care is equally minimal, bordering on non-existent. The constant consumption of gritty bread already mentioned slowly wears down your teeth, but the lack of any proper cleaning only accelerates their decay. You might occasionally rub your teeth with a rough cloth or a twig, but this is an infrequent, half-hearted effort. The consequences, common and painful tooth loss, is an expected part of aging, often beginning surprisingly early in life. You've seen many in your village barely into their adulthood already missing front teeth, their smiles altered by the harsh realities of their diet and lack of hygiene. The constant dull ache in your jaw, the persistent bad breath, the sensitivity to cold or sweet foods. These are simply facts of your daily existence, accepted with a grim resignation. And then there are the constant unseen companions that define your perpetual uncleanliness, lice and fleas. They are not merely an annoyance, they are a fact of daily life, a universal truth for nearly everyone in your village, peasant or not, though certainly more prevalent among those with fewer means. You learn to live with the constant subtle itch, to casually scratch your scalp, or shift your weight to alleviate a bite. It's not a cause for shame, it's simply how things are. You might even find yourself absent-mindedly running a hand through your hair, a small ingrained gesture to dislodge the tiny inhabitants. Their presence contributes to a pervasive underlying scent that is a mixture of sweat from ceaseless labour, the clinging smoke from your hut, the distinct earthy smell of old unwashed wool clothing, and the faint, unavoidable aroma of animal droppings and human waste. This is the scent of your world, the smell of survival utterly familiar and unremarkable to you, but one that would undoubtedly hit a visitor from another era with a startling force. You're in essence a walking, breathing part of your local ecosystem, a stark contrast to the king, whose body and surroundings are fastidiously perfumed. This minimal, often ineffective daily care highlights just how monumentally difficult and infrequent any attempt at a true bath would be. Given the perpetual grime and the rudimentary nature of your daily washing, the idea of a full bath, a true immersion in clean water, is less a routine and more an event, a monumental undertaking reserved for a mere handful of times a year. You might count these rare occasions on the fingers of one hand, perhaps even fewer. Primarily, such an endeavour is attempted in the warmer months of summer for obvious practical reasons. The very thought of hauling and heating enough water for a bath in the biting cold of winter is enough to make your muscles ache in anticipatory protest, a task bordering on the absurd. You can't help but wryly note the sheer inefficiency of it all, a process entirely devoid of the instant comforts you might be accustomed to in another life. The effort involved in preparing for a bath is immense, turning what we consider a simple personal act into a major household project. First, there's the water itself. You must make countless trips to the nearest stream or communal well, often a significant distance from your hut, carrying heavy wooden buckets that dig into your hands and shoulders. Each bucket of water, freezing cold and perhaps already murky, represents a tangible expenditure of your precious physical energy that is typically reserved for work in the fields or gathering food. You estimate how many buckets will be needed, a calculation based on a brief, not very deep soak, certainly not a luxurious wallow. It's a collective effort, often involving your wife and older children, a shared burden that underscores the rarity and significance of the occasion. Once the water is collected, the next immense hurdle is heating it. Firewood, as you well know, is not just a resource, it is life itself. Every stick, every branch, every log is either painstakingly collected from the Lord's woods, with permission of course, and often a tax attached or purchased at a price that bites deep into your meagre earnings. To use enough of this precious fuel to heat a sufficient quantity of water for bathing feels almost extravagant. A calculated risk against the needs of cooking and warmth for the coming nights. A large cauldron might be hung over the hearth, the fire stoked high, the smoke billowing through the roof hole stinging your eyes. You wait patiently, perhaps for hours, for the water to warm to a tolerable temperature standing by, feeding the flames your patience a testament to your desire for even a brief respite from the ever-present dirt. The actual bathing, when it finally occurs, is often a brief functional affair. There's no porcelain tub. Instead, perhaps a large wooden barrel or a trough might be pressed into service, or you might simply wash yourself with a cloth over a small basin of warm water. The precious coarse soap, if you have any, is used sparingly, its harsh, lye-based properties stinging your raw skin. The water quickly turns grey, a visible testament to the layers of grime being shed, and it is usually shared family members taking turns in the increasingly murky liquid. It's not a serene, refreshing experience. It's a practical attempt to remove the most stubborn layers of dirt, a utilitarian act more akin to scrubbing a pot than a pampered indulgence. You emerge feeling lighter, certainly, but the sensation of being truly thoroughly clean is fleeting, quickly overwhelmed by the inevitable return of dust and sweat. Furthermore, a powerful cultural undercurrent reinforces this general acceptance of a less-than-clean existence, the Church's emphasis on cleanliness of the soul, not the body. You hear it in the mumbled sermons, in the teachings passed down through generations. True purity, true godliness, lies not in the fleeting cleanliness of the flesh, which is earthly and corruptible, but in the spiritual cleanliness of your immortal soul. Physical bathing therefore becomes deprioritized for the average labourer. Why expend such immense effort and resources on the ephemeral body when the eternal soul demands your focus? This spiritual justification, coupled with the immense practical difficulties, makes an unhygienic daily life not just tolerable, but almost divinely sanctioned a part of your humble earthly lot. You accept it just as you accept the toil, the hunger, and the constant presence of vermin. For you, the peasant, the concept of hygiene is a battle you rarely win, and one you are taught not to overly concern yourself with. Yet for the king, the world of personal care is an entirely different realm, a fragrant, meticulously controlled ritual that speaks volumes about his status and his profound distance from your muddy reality. You awaken to fragrance, not the damp, earthy odours of a peasant's hut, nor the acrid sting of wood smoke, but a carefully curated atmosphere of pleasant scents. This is not an accident of nature. It is the result of meticulous, unseen labour. Your royal chambers are swept twice daily, a ritualistic cleansing that goes beyond mere dirt removal. Bundles of fresh, aromatic herbs like thyme and lavender are used not just for their pleasant perfume, but because they are believed to ward off illness and create a truly clean environment, a protective bubble of purity around your sacred person. The air consequently is always fresh, subtly perfumed and invigorating, a stark and almost unbelievable contrast to the heavy stale air that chokes your peasant subjects. You breathe deeply, easily, the very act of drawing breath a luxurious experience free from the lingering smoke and pervasive dampness that clings to the lungs of the common folk. As you prepare to rise, your washing water is brought to you not from a communal well or a muddy stream, but carried in gleaming brass pitchers by attentive servants. This water is not merely clean, it is infused, perhaps with rose petals, their delicate floral scent, a gentle caress to your senses, or with the brighter citrusy notes of orange blossoms. On other days, a touch of vinegar might be added, believed to purify and invigorate its sharp, clean scent, cutting through any remaining staleness. Each infusion is chosen for its specific properties, and its distinct luxurious aroma a deliberate enhancement of a simple necessity. The very act of washing your hands and face becomes a sensory delight, a ritual that underscores your elevated status. The water itself smells distinctly of luxury, of the resources available only to you, the monarch marking your body as separate, as more refined, as divinely appointed. This is controlled cleanliness, an orchestrated environment that ensures your body and your surroundings are always in a state of perceived purity. It's a profound contrast to the peasant who wakes up with dirt, already a persistent companion whose washing is a quick cold sting in a bucket of murky water. For you, the king, the world bends to create an atmosphere of pristine order. Every detail, from the freshness of the air to the fragrance of your washing water, is designed to confirm your natural elevated place in the hierarchy. You don't just feel cleaner, you are presented as cleaner, a living testament to the divine favour that separates you from the common masses. You learn to expect this, to absorb this constant affirmation of your unique position, understanding that even the minutiae of your personal care are a performance, a projection of power and status. You might observe with a detached amusement the sheer effort that goes into maintaining this fragrant environment. An army of attendants, housekeepers, and specialised herbalists work tirelessly, often unnoticed, to ensure that every corner of your palace reflects your grandeur. Their lives in many ways are dedicated to curating your sensory experience, from the scent of your chambers to the quality of the light that filters through your stained glass windows. This is not merely about hygiene, but about health and protection. In a world where disease is rampant and poorly understood, pleasant scents and seemingly clean air are believed to offer a shield against unseen humours and malign influences. Your physicians, with their theories of balance and purity, undoubtedly approve of this fragrant, ordered existence, seeing it as an essential component of your royal well-being. Your skin, unlike the chapped and calloused hands of your subjects, is soft, cared for, and fragrant. Your body is tended to not out of simple necessity, but as a vessel of divine authority worthy of every luxurious attention. This cultivated purity is not just for your own comfort, but for the countless others who will interact with you throughout the day. You must present an image of perfection, of an unblemished, healthy ruler, and this meticulous daily care is the very foundation of that public persona. It sets the stage for the next, even more elaborate ritual of royal cleanliness, the bath itself, an event so far removed from the peasant's infrequent scrub that it might as well be from another planet entirely. While your peasant counterpart contemplates the immense seasonal effort required for a single rudimentary scrub, you, the king, exist in a realm where the bath is a luxury taken whenever you wish, sometimes even daily. The concept of infrequent simply does not apply to your personal ablutions. It is a matter of royal prerogative, a testament to your boundless command over resources and labour. Imagine the sheer convenience, the effortless summoning of warmth and cleansing, a stark counterpoint to the arduous treks for cold water and the laborious stoking of fires that define the peasant's rare attempts at true cleanliness. Your bath is not a battle. It is a serene ritual, a testament to your unquestioned authority over your environment. The setting for this luxurious act is a large custom-built wooden tub, often crafted from fine, smooth timber. But even this is not enough. To ensure the utmost comfort and to prevent any unpleasant splinters or rough contact with the wood, the tub is meticulously lined with fine linen sheets. These sheets, perhaps as soft and white as those on your bed, transform a simple wooden container into a truly opulent basin, a cocoon of purity and softness. It's a detail that speaks volumes about the lengths taken to ensure your comfort, a stark contrast to the rough, unyielding surfaces that define the peasant's world. This isn't merely a wash, it's an immersion into comfort itself. The water itself is a marvel of coordination and effort. It is not fetched in murky buckets, but carried to you by a retinue of servants in gleaming brass pitchers, already heated to a perfect, pleasing temperature. This is a constant process, with pitchers continually brought in, ensuring a steady supply of warm, clean water topped up and refreshed throughout your bath. The steam rises gently, carrying the faint sweet scent of the rose petals or orange blossoms that often infuse your bathing water, creating an aromatic cloud that further enhances the sense of luxury and calm. You might lie back perhaps for an hour or more, allowing the warmth to seep into your bones, feeling the tension of governance gently ease away, a profound physical and mental rejuvenation that is utterly unknown to those who toil in the fields. And then comes the pampering. As you cleanse, you use imported soaps, not the harsh lye-based concoctions of the peasantry, but fine, delicately scented soaps from distant Castile, known for their superior quality and gentle lather. These soaps are luxury beyond imagination, for most leave your skin feeling soft and refreshed, not raw or irritated. After your bath, your skin is not merely dried. It is pampered with rich oils, perhaps infused with lavender or almond, gently massaged into your limbs by skilled attendants. Your hair, thick and lustrous, is meticulously brushed with boar bristles, a careful grooming that removes tangles and promotes shine, preparing you for the elaborate coiffures of court. Every aspect of your body is treated with an attention that speaks not just of vanity, but of a profound reverence for your royal person. Your nails, too, receive meticulous attention. They are not merely trimmed, but carefully shaped and cleaned by physicians, not just barbers. This isn't just about aesthetics. It's a reflection of the sophisticated for the time medical theories that govern your health. Your physician's adherence to the four humours theory see cleanliness as an extension of your overall well-being, a crucial component in maintaining the delicate balance of your bodily fluids. Every aspect of your physical person, from your skin to your nails, is viewed through the lens of health status and godliness. Maintaining a pristine body is not just good hygiene. It is a divine imperative, a visible sign of your elevated health and purity sanctioned by both earthly and heavenly powers. Your body, the vessel of your divine right, must be kept in impeccable order. This entire ritual, from the perfumed water to the physician-supervised nail care frames, cleanliness not as a practical necessity or a rare difficult chore, but as an inherent extension of your health, your status, and your very godliness. You're not just cleaned, you're ritually purified, ready to embody the divine order of your realm. It is a profound declaration, a daily performance that separates you utterly from the common man whose body is marked by perpetual grime and the unceasing struggle against filth. Your physical purity is a symbol of your spiritual purity, and both are paramount to your rule. And just as your body is meticulously cared for, so too is your breath and teeth, another ritual that further highlights the immense disparity in personal care. Beyond the elaborate bathing rituals that define your royal cleanliness, your attention to personal care extends to the most intimate and symbolic aspects of your physical presence, your breath and your teeth. For you, the king oral hygiene is far more than a simple matter of comfort. It is a ritualistic practice deeply entwined with medical beliefs, social status, and the very concept of symbolic purity. While your peasant subjects suffer from widespread tooth loss and pervasive bad breath, a direct consequence of their diet and lack of care, your mouth is a meticulously managed domain tended to by an array of attendants and guided by the sophisticated, albeit rudimentary, medical knowledge of the era. You begin your day with a meticulous cleaning of your teeth. Forget the idea of toothbrushes and modern toothpaste. For you, the ritual involves fine cloths, perhaps of linen or silk, carefully dipped in wine or vinegar. These liquids, prized for their astringent and cleansing properties, are used to vigorously rub your teeth, polishing away any residue from last night's lavish feast. The sensation is sharp, the taste tart, but you endure it knowing that this effort is crucial. Your attendants perform this task with the utmost care, ensuring every tooth is addressed, a precise and almost surgical attention to detail that further separates your daily routine from the casual, almost non-existent oral care of the common folk. This isn't merely about fresh breath. It's about maintaining a pristine facade, a physical reflection of your unblemished rule. Following the physical cleaning, you perform a ritualistic rinse, often with water that has been infused with sage. Sage, a herb revered for its medicinal properties, and fresh, earthy scent is believed by your physicians to possess purifying qualities. They instruct you that bad breath is not just an aesthetic flaw, but could be a signal of internal decay, an imbalance of the four humours within your body. Thus, this sage-infused rinse serves a dual purpose. It freshens your breath, ensuring your words, when spoken, carry no unpleasant taint, and it acts as a preventative measure, warding off perceived internal ailments. You swish the cool herbal liquid with purpose, the act itself a symbolic casting out of impurities, a daily reaffirmation of your bodily and by extension spiritual health. This meticulous attention to your body, especially to your breath and teeth, stands in stark, almost brutal contrast to the peasant's desperate lack of care. While a peasant might occasionally rub their teeth with a crude twig or simply endure the pain of decay and loss, your oral health is overseen by an army of attendants and physicians. They are dedicated to maintaining your symbolic purity, ensuring that every aspect of your person aligns with the image of a divinely appointed ruler. Bad breath, a universal human condition, is simply not acceptable for one who embodies the very essence of order and grace. Your words must be pure, your presence unblemished, and your breath untainted, for you are the embodiment of the realm's well-being. The visible health of your teeth, the freshness of your breath, and the overall pristine condition of your body are all part of a larger performance, a continuous display of your unique status. In a world where widespread disease and physical ailments are common, your robust health maintained through such elaborate rituals is a powerful symbol of your divine favour and exceptional resources. It reinforces the idea that you are not just a man, but a living, breathing symbol, maintained by a vast support system, a meticulous attention to detail that extends from your grand chambers down to the very smallest details of your oral cavity. This level of care, utterly unimaginable to the masses, highlights the profound chasm that separates your existence from theirs, a chasm that extends into every facet of daily life, particularly the relentless cycle of labour that defines the peasant's destiny. While the king's breath is deemed pure enough for pronouncements, and his nails manicured by learned physicians, your existence as the peasant snaps back into the unvarnished reality of unending physical toil. There is no lingering scent of rosewater for you, no soft linen sheets. Only the damp chill of your hut and the immediate insistent call of the land. Your body, already accustomed to discomfort, protests with a chorus of aching joints, knees that crack, a back that feels perpetually stiff, and shoulders that carry the ghost of yesterday's burdens. You might stretch a futile attempt to dislodge the deep-seated weariness, but the aches are already there, a familiar unwelcome greeting to another day of labour. This isn't a life chosen, it's a destiny fixed from birth. From the moment you drew your first breath, your path was clear, immutable, and undeniably tied to the soil beneath your feet. You are in essence a worker of land, and that definition precedes all others. No one ever asked you what you wished to be, what dreams you harboured, or what talents you possessed beyond your physical strength and endurance. Your future was determined by the plot of earth your family worked, by the lord who owned it, and by the relentless cyclical demands of agriculture. This constant knowledge of never being truly free, of being bound by invisible chains of fealty and necessity, is a heavy burden, a subtle undercurrent to every action, every decision. You're not a master of your own fate. You're an instrument of the land, and your overlord a cog in a vast, unyielding feudal machine. Each season brings its own relentless physical demands, a testament to nature's unceasing cycle and your unceasing obligation. As winter's bitter grip slowly loosens, giving way to the tentative whispers of spring, your toil intensifies dramatically. This is the time for planting a period of endless hours spent hunched over the cold, often muddy earth. You might spend days, even weeks, with your back bent, your hands raw and numb, from the cold soil dropping seeds into the freshly turned furrows. The cold permeates your very being, chilling you to the core, and the damp earth clings to your rough trousers and boots. Your muscles scream in protest, a persistent dull throbbing that you learn to push past. You are sowing the seeds of your family's survival, a physical act of faith against the capriciousness of weather and the ever-present threat of famine. Every movement is deliberate, practiced, efficient, for there is no time for hesitation, no room for error. The future of your village, your family, depends on the meticulousness of your spring labour. You watch the horizon not for leisure, but for the subtle shifts in light, the barely perceptible lengthening of the days, each moment a precious opportunity to work. The air is still often crisp, biting, carrying the scent of thawing earth and distant wood smoke. You work alongside your neighbours, a silent camaraderie born of shared hardship. The only sounds the rhythmic thud of a hoe against soil, the lowing of a distant ox, or the occasional grunt of effort. Conversation, you find, is often a luxury reserved for men with energy, to spare a rare commodity in your perpetually exhausted state. Your hands, already calloused and rough, become even more so, the skin splitting. In places, a constant reminder of your intimate, often brutal connection to the land. This is the true meaning of manual labour, a continuous physical engagement with the raw elements, where your body is the primary tool and its limits are constantly tested. The hope for a good harvest is a fragile whispered prayer, a thin thread of optimism woven into the relentless fabric of your daily grind. And as spring slowly transitions into the height of summer, these demands will only intensify, bringing new forms of physical challenge and discomfort, cementing your role as an eternal servant of the soil. As the last days of spring planting fade into the long hot days of summer, the relentless demands on your body shift but never lessen. If spring was about hunching and sowing, summer is about reaping, a period that brings with it blistering hands and an even more profound bone-deep exhaustion. The sun beats down with an unforgiving intensity, baking the earth and turning your skin to leather. You work under its harsh glare from sunrise to sunset, often longer spurred on by the desperate urgency of the harvest. The golden fields of grain, once a promise, are now a demanding master, requiring every ounce of your strength. You grasp your scythe, its blade worn and familiar, and begin the rhythmic back-breaking swing, cutting swathes through the tall stalks. Your muscles ache, sweat streams down your face and back, mingling with the dust, and chaff stinging your eyes. Your hands, already tough, develop painful blisters that often burst and heal, only to reappear the next day, a testament to the ceaseless friction of your tools. The air is thick with the buzzing of insects, the rustle of dry stalks, and the quiet grunts of exertion from your fellow villagers. This is communal labour at its most intense, everyone working in unison, a silent, desperate race against time and the unpredictable whims of the weather. A sudden storm, a prolonged drought, or an unexpected pestilence could ruin weeks of effort, condemning your family to an even leaner winter. The pressure is immense, a constant weight that fuels your endurance even when your body screams for rest. You feel the strain in every joint, the burning in your lungs, but you push through, driven by the fundamental need to survive. There's no escaping the heat, no luxury of shade or cool water, only the endless expanse of the field and the unyielding demands of the ripening crop. Your lips are dry enough to crack if you smile, but there's little to smile about. Only the grim satisfaction of a day's work completed, a small victory against the elements. When autumn finally arrives, bringing a welcome coolness to the air, the pace of your labour doesn't slow, it merely transforms. This season is a frantic rush to preserve, to gather, to prepare for the lean months ahead. You are harvesting the last of the root vegetables, potatoes, turnips, carrots, pulling them from the hardened earth with aching hands. You're gathering fallen fruits from the communal orchards, pressing cider, or drying apples for winter. Firewood must be collected in earnest split and stacked a vital defence against the coming cold. Grain once harvested needs to be threshed, winnowed and milled, each step a physically demanding process that adds to your accumulated fatigue. You work with a sense of urgency, knowing that every barrel filled, every sack of grain stored, every log split, is another small shield against the famine and cold that define the medieval winter. The scent of decaying leaves, damp earth and wood smoke fills the air, a melancholic aroma that signals the impending hardship. And then winter. This season is pure endurance, a brutal test of resilience against cold and persistent hunger. The days are short, the nights interminably long and frigid. Your work shifts indoors, mending tools, weaving simple cloths, tending to the few precious animals you might still have. But the hunger is omnipresent, a dull, aching sensation that never truly leaves. Food stores dwindle and the hard bread and thin pottage become even more meagre, often stretched with desperate fillers. The cold permeates your hut, seeping through the cracks, freezing the bucket of water in the corner. You huddle close to your family, sharing body heat, dreaming of the warmth of a full meal of the spring that feels impossibly distant. Your strength is tested daily, not by overt labour, but by the quiet, constant drain of cold and hunger. Your destiny as a worker of land is fixed from birth, a relentless cycle of toil and scarcity that marks every season, every year of your life. While you struggle to survive the king, your overlord engages in a different kind of work, one that involves councils, decrees, and the intricate dance of power. Even as you battle the elements and the land for your own meagre survival, there exists another, even more insidious demand on your time and strength: obligatory corvée labour. This isn't optional work. It is a fundamental pillar of the feudal system, a legally mandated service that dictates a significant portion of your week. Under the ironclad rules of feudal law, you owe your lord, your immediate superior, between 2 and 5 days of your precious labour every single week. Think about that for a moment. Nearly half of your productive hours, the very time you need to sow your own fields, tend your own crops, or gather your own firewood illegally claimed by another. It's an arrangement that seems almost absurd in its injustice, yet it is the unyielding reality of your existence. This system is particularly brutal because it demands that you work your lord's land before you even touch your own. Imagine the internal conflict, the gnawing anxiety. You know your family's survival hinges on the success of your small plot, yet you must dedicate your freshest energy, your most productive hours to ensuring the Lord's bounty. You stand in his fields, hoeing his rows, cutting his grain, knowing that your own hungry children wait back in your hut, and your own crops might wither for lack of attention if the weather turns or the season moves too swiftly. It's a constant, agonizing trade-off, a daily reminder of your subjugation. You mend his fences, ensuring his livestock is secure even as your own flimsy enclosure might be crumbling. You harvest his grain, piling it high in his barns, while your own meagre stacks represent a fraction of what you truly need. This isn't simply labour, it's a profound systemic constraint on your very ability to thrive, pushing you ever closer to the brink of subsistence. And what if you refused the thought fleeting and dangerous might cross your mind during a particularly grueling day in the Lord's fields? But the consequences are immediate, severe, and utterly unforgiving. Protest, even a whispered complaint, risks starvation, for the Lord controls the land, the mill, and ultimately your access to sustenance. You could be denied the right to glean, to use the common pasture, or even evicted from your hut. Beyond that, the threat of severe punishment looms large. A beating, a public shaming, perhaps even harsher penalties that serve as stark deterrents, not just for you, but for any other peasant who might consider defiance. You've seen what happens to men who dare to question the established order. Their suffering is a chilling lesson for all. The system is designed to crush dissent to ensure unquestioning obedience, leaving you with little recourse or avenue for complaint, only the grim path of compliance. This arduous labour is made even more challenging by the stark reality of your tools. You, the peasant, possess few personal tools, and those you do have are rudimentary, often patched and worn from generations of use. Forget the idea of owning specialised high-quality implements. That is a luxury for the Lord's estate. Instead, you rely on shared or inherited implements passed down from father to son, each bearing the marks of countless hands and endless toil. Imagine a cracked wooden plough, its share perhaps dull, or even broken, tied together with twine threatening to splinter with every furrow, or a hoe, its blade chipped, its handle rough and worn smooth, in places reinforced with makeshift repairs. When something inevitably breaks, which it frequently does under the relentless strain of daily use, there's no going to a store for a replacement. You must improvise. You learn to mend with whatever is at hand, a length of strong vine, a piece of animal hide, a sturdy twig. This constant need for improvisation, for making do with what little you have, is a testament to your ingenuity certainly, but also a stark reminder of your material poverty and the constant battle against decay and malfunction. The weight of this unending toil, the crushing reality of obligatory labour performed with inadequate tools, shapes not only your body but your very spirit. There is a deep-seated resignation, a fatalism born of constant struggle against forces far greater than yourself. You're not a free agent. You're a force of labour bound to the earth and the will of others. While your hands bleed and your back aches from mending the Lord's fences, another kind of work is unfolding in the castle. A work of strategy, of command, of performance, utterly detached from the mud and sweat that define your days. The king's daily responsibilities are a heavy burden, yes, but of a vastly different nature, involving scribes and chamberlains rather than scythes and broken ploughs. While your peasant hands are raw from mending your lord's fences, your royal counterpart is engaged in a vastly different form of work, one that trades physical strain for mental and political acuity. For you, the king ruling is not a leisure activity. It is a heavy, intricate burden beginning long after your luxurious awakening. Your day often commences not with the rising sun, but with the quiet, serious gathering of your inner circle, for council held within chambers, warmed by dedicated fires and lit by flickering candles. You find yourself seated at the head of a polished heavy oak table surrounded by an assembly of functionaries, the watchful chamberlain, the meticulous scribes with their quills poised, the solemn advisers, and perhaps a trusted general or two. This isn't a casual chat. It's the nerve centre of your kingdom, where the delicate machinery of governance is set in motion. In this rarefied atmosphere, every movement you make is observed, every subtle shift in your posture noted, every flicker in your gaze analysed. Your expression, your very presence carries immense weight. A slight frown can signify displeasure that will ripple through the court. A nod can set in motion a chain of events that impacts thousands. Each word you utter is not just a sentence. It is a decree, a judgment, a command that will be transcribed, disseminated, and rigorously enforced. You are acutely aware that you are embodying divine order itself, a living symbol of stability in a world perpetually teetering on the brink of chaos. This constant performance, this unwavering awareness of being perpetually on stage, is an exhausting unseen labour, a burden of visibility that your peasant subjects lost in the anonymity of their toil could never comprehend. Your labour in this royal sphere primarily involves hours of holding court. This can range from formal sessions where you receive petitions and grievances acting as the ultimate arbiter of justice, to more ceremonial events where powerful nobles present their fealty, reinforcing the intricate web of loyalty and obligation that holds your realm together. These aren't passive affairs. You must listen, evaluate, and often make swift decisions that carry profound consequences. It's a continuous exercise in diplomacy, strategy, and judgment, a chess game played with human lives and vast swathes of land as the pieces. You learn to read faces, to discern subtle intentions, to understand the unspoken power dynamics that constantly shift beneath the surface of courtly politeness. Beyond the internal affairs of your court, a significant portion of your work is dedicated to the delicate art of diplomatic strategizing. Messengers from neighbouring kingdoms arrive with proposals for alliances, demands for tribute or thinly veiled threats. You must weigh these carefully, consulting with your most trusted advisors, considering the long-term implications for your kingdom's peace and prosperity. This involves intricate negotiations, the crafting of treaties, and the careful cultivation of relationships with other rulers, often through strategic marriages involving your children or those of your closest nobles. It's a constant high-stakes balancing act, where a single misstep can plunge your realm into costly, devastating warfare. And speaking of warfare, while you the king are the ultimate commander, your direct involvement in the brutal physical aspects of battle is often limited. Instead, your labour involves managing warfare through your loyal generals. You receive reports from the front lines, approve military campaigns, allocate resources for fortifying castles, and authorise the raising of armies. You study maps, discuss tactics, and make decisions that determine the fate of thousands of soldiers and the security of your borders. This requires a profound understanding of military strategy, a keen sense of logistics, and the ability to inspire loyalty and confidence in your commanders. It is a work of command and delegation, a strategic exercise that ensures your authority extends even to the farthest, bloodiest corners of your realm. Your physical presence on the battlefield, if it occurs, is more symbolic and inspiring figurehead rather than a frontline combatant. This continuous, multifaceted administrative and ceremonial work is relentless, a different kind of burden entirely from the peasant's unending toil, yet equally demanding, constantly reminding you that even your smallest actions are under scrutiny. Your work as the king extends far beyond the council chambers and diplomatic strategizing. It permeates every aspect of your public and even semi-private life. It is a profound, unending labour of visibility and symbolic governance. Consider, for instance, the grand royal feasts we spoke of earlier. For your peasant subjects, a feast, however meagre, is a rare, joyous release from relentless hunger and toil. For you, it is another demanding work assignment, albeit one cloaked in opulence. You are required to sit at the absolute centre of the high table, a beacon of authority and stability meticulously positioned for all to observe. Your role is not primarily to eat, as we've noted, but to radiate wealth, power, and unwavering confidence. Every bite you take, every gesture you make, from raising a goblet to carving a ceremonial piece of meat, is a carefully choreographed message, a silent performance for your court, your nobles, and any visiting dignitaries. You are acutely aware that hundreds of eyes are upon you constantly. They watch for signs of weakness, for hints of your mood, for any deviation from the expected regal demeanour. Your posture must be perfect, your expression controlled, even as the rich, heavy foods and the long hours might tempt you to relax. This isn't merely etiquette, it's statecraft. The impression you convey during these feasts helps to solidify your authority, to quell whispers of dissent, and to reassure your subjects and perhaps intimidate your rivals of the enduring strength and prosperity of your realm. It is an exhausting form of mental and emotional labour, maintaining this impenetrable facade of power, ensuring that even in moments of apparent leisure, you are continuously reinforcing your divine right to rule. You carry the weight of the crown, not just on your head, but in every fibre of your being, in every public gesture. Indeed, your entire existence demands constant public visibility. From the moment you rise to your courtly interactions, to your public appearances, you are rarely, if ever, truly alone or unobserved. This is an exhausting, unending form of labour that most people, even those of high standing today, would find utterly unbearable. There is no true off switch, no moment where you can simply be yourself without the burden of your title. You're always the king, always the symbol. Imagine every meal, every walk through the castle grounds, every conversation being under scrutiny, having to convey a message of stability, authority, and if necessary, stern justice. Even when you're interacting with your family, the protocols and expectations of your station never truly vanish. Your children too are part of the dynastic performance. The pervasive pressure of your role extends even to your sleep, perhaps the most private of human experiences. Your dreams, you realize, are not entirely your own. Your chambers are guarded through the night by loyal knights and chamberlains, their silent presence a constant reminder that even in slumber, you are a vulnerable yet vitally important figure. The security of the realm literally rests upon your guarded sleep. And mentally, even when your body is at rest, your mind is often restless, perhaps turning over the day's diplomatic challenges, the loyalty of a troublesome baron, or the looming threat of an external invasion. You might wake in a cold sweat, a particularly vivid dream of rebellion or famine disturbing your peace, a testament to the fact that the anxieties of governance infiltrate even your subconscious. You are the embodiment of the kingdom, and its worries are yours even in the deepest recesses of your mind. This ceaseless vigilance, this complete lack of true privacy, this constant performance of power underscores the profound pressure of your role. While the peasant's labour is physically grueling and publicly invisible, your labour is mentally and emotionally draining, perpetually exposed to scrutiny and expectation. Your sleep is guarded, your meals are stage-managed, and your very persona is a carefully constructed edifice of rule. It is a life of immense privilege, certainly, but also one of profound isolation and relentless demand, a heavy crown worn with every breath. This is the burden of symbolic performance, a reality that demands you think, act, and make decisions not merely as a man, but as the very foundation of your kingdom, fulfilling roles that span across finance, warfare, and even spirituality. Your multifaceted work as king isn't merely about presiding over feasts or managing your court. It's about balancing the very foundations of your realm, simultaneously acting as banker, warlord, and priest. You are the ultimate multitasker, a one-person central bank defense ministry, and sometimes even a theological arbiter, all rolled into one heavily robed figure. This dizzying array of responsibilities, each weighty in its own right, makes your decisions not just important, but absolutely critical, creating ripples that spread across every corner of your kingdom, from the highest noble to the poorest peasant. First, consider your role as the realm's de facto banker and chief economist. You and you alone hold ultimate control over the kingdom's financial mechanisms. This includes the immensely powerful act of minting coins. Every piece of currency that circulates through your lands bears your likeness, your symbols a constant reminder of your economic sovereignty. You literally put the coin in your domain, a subtle but undeniable assertion of your pervasive economic presence. But your power isn't just in creating money, it's also in manipulating its value. You have the ability to debase currency, to reduce the precious metal content of coins, allowing you to mint more coins from the same amount of silver or gold. It's a tempting, often necessary lever to pull, especially in times of war or economic hardship, a medieval form of quantitative easing. However, you know the delicate balance debasement invariably leads to inflation, making goods more expensive, directly impacting the wealth of your nobles, who may hold fixed rents, and more critically significantly increasing the burdens on your already struggling peasants, who see their meagre earnings buy less and less. It's a dangerous game, requiring a sharp eye on the economic pulse of your kingdom. Beyond currency, you also regulate trade routes. By issuing decrees, imposing tariffs, or granting monopolies, you control the flow of goods and wealth within and beyond your borders. Want silk from Byzantium. You decide if it enters your realm and at what cost. need to ensure your local merchants thrive. You can implement policies to protect them. These decisions, made from the relative isolation of your throne room, are not abstract financial maneuvers. They directly impact the livelihoods of your merchants, the prices in your markets, and the overall prosperity or hardship of your subjects. Your capacity to wield such economic power is vast, a constant source of wealth, but also a potential wellspring of discontent if mismanaged. Then there is your inescapable role as warlord. The security of your kingdom rests squarely on your shoulders. This means constantly managing your vassals, the powerful dukes and barons who owe you fealty, but who are often ambitious and prone to internal squabbles, or worse, outright rebellion. You must ensure their loyalty, mediate their disputes, and when necessary assert your authority with military force. It's like being the eternal HR manager for a collection of heavily armed, notoriously independent aristocrats. You're responsible for training armies, ensuring your knights are skilled and equipped, and that your peasant levies are ready when called upon. You approve the construction and fortification of castles, the very bastions of your power, and fund their maintenance. The defence of your borders, the projection of your power abroad. These are your ultimate military responsibilities, requiring both strategic foresight and decisive action. War is an ever-present spectre, and you must be prepared to wage it or prevent it at a moment's notice. Finally, you also function in many ways as the kingdom's chief priest, or at least its primary liaison with the divine. Your rule, after all, is by divine right, a concept tirelessly preached by the Church. This means engaging with the Church as both an indispensable ally and a formidable rival. You appoint clerics to influential positions, ensuring loyalty within the ecclesiastical hierarchy. You fund monasteries, gaining spiritual merit and practical support. You consult with Rome on matters of faith and policy, navigating the complex political landscape of the papacy. The Church offers you legitimacy, moral authority, and a powerful tool for social control, but it also wields immense land and wealth, and its own powerful influence sometimes directly challenging your temporal authority. You must play the role of a pious ruler protecting the faith even as you strategically manage the Church's earthly power. To think like a banker, a warlord, and a priest simultaneously, this is the impossible task that falls to you, the king, all while trying to keep your powerful, often fractious nobles content with the lands and titles, and your vast labouring peasant class subdued and productive. Every decision, from changing the silver content in a coin to approving a military campaign, carries an immense weight and can ripple across the entire kingdom, defining prosperity or plunging it into poverty, ensuring peace or sparking war. It is a heavy burden indeed, one that shapes not only the present but the future of your realm, and crucially the paths of the next generation whose destinies are already being forged. While the king grapples with the weighty affairs of state, your existence as a peasant ensures that even your earliest years are not spared from the relentless demands of survival. You're not granted the luxury of a prolonged carefree childhood. Instead, you're integrated into the rhythm of labour from your very earliest years, your small hands barely capable of grasping put to work almost as soon as you can walk steadily. There is no concept of a separate childhood as we understand it today. There's only a gradual, inevitable immersion into the demanding world of adult responsibilities. Your worth, even as a child, is intrinsically tied to your capacity to contribute, however minimally, to the household's survival. You learn practical vocational skills long before you learn to read or even fully articulate complex thoughts. Tending the fire is one of your first crucial lessons. You learn which twigs burn best, how to carefully feed the flames, to keep them alive without wasting precious fuel, and the subtle art of coaxing smoke out through the roof hole. The rough feel of kindling in your small hands, the warmth of the embers on your face. These are your first sensory lessons in responsibility. Fetching water too becomes an early chore. You grasp small lightweight buckets, struggling to maintain balance as you navigate the muddy, uneven path to the communal well. or stream. The shocking cold of the water on your hands, the splash against your bare legs, are daily reminders of your task. It's a constant exercise in strength and perseverance crucial for the household's most basic needs. Milking the family goat, if you're fortunate enough to have one, is another early skill requiring patience and a gentle touch. You learn to approach the animal calmly to understand its rhythms and to extract the meagre but vital milk that supplements your family's diet. Shooing chickens or ducks away from the vegetable patch or simply keeping them corralled teaches you about animal behaviour and the importance of protecting your precious resources. Your childhood is a continuous hands-on apprenticeship where every task, however small, directly contributes to the collective well-being. No one asks you what you wish to be when you grow up. The answer is already etched into the mud on your boots, the calluses on your hands, and the quiet resignation in your eyes. Your future is not chosen. It is determined by the unyielding demands of survival, necessitating your early indispensable contribution. Education for you is an entirely informal affair conducted not in a classroom with books and scrolls, but within the rough-hewn walls of your hut and the endless expanse of the fields. Your parents, your older siblings, and your village elders are your only teachers imparting knowledge through observation and participation. You watch your father mend a plough, and then you are handed a piece of twine and a broken tool tasked with mimicking his movements. You observe your mother grinding grain, and soon you are given a smaller stone learning the rhythmic, monotonous motion. It's a survival-focused curriculum centered on essential skills: how to sow, how to harvest, how to identify edible plants from poisonous ones, how to tend to livestock, how to mend torn clothes with coarse thread. There are no grand philosophies or complex histories, only the practical knowledge required to keep your family alive through another season. By the time you're 10 years old, a young son might already be working like a grown man, his body still small but hardened by years of labour. His small cough, a persistent rasp from the smoke and damp, is a testament to his early toil, an accepted consequence of his contribution. His hands are rough, his face often smudged with dirt, his posture already showing the early signs of a life spent bent over the earth. You see in him a reflection of yourself, a future mirroring your own relentless struggle and predetermined destiny. There's no time for abstract thought, no opportunity for the intellectual pursuits that define a different kind of childhood. His value is in his strength, his endurance, his capacity for work. This is the reality of childhood. For the vast majority of your realm, a stark, often brutal preparation for a life of unending physical labour. Yet far removed from this gritty practical training, a different kind of childhood unfolds, one where protection, privilege and formal learning are the cornerstones of existence, preparing children not for the fields, but for the throne. While your peasant children are learning to milk goats and mend tools in the biting cold a world away, your children born into the lap of royalty experience a childhood that is an almost unimaginable fantasy. They are cradled in immense comfort and privilege from their very first breath. Their early lives a meticulously constructed bubble designed to shield them from the myriad hardships that define the existence of the vast majority of your subjects. The concepts of cold hunger and manual labour are alien to them, mere abstract words in the scripture they will soon be taught. They will never feel the persistent ache of joints stiff from damp, nor the gnawing pangs of a constantly empty stomach, nor the raw callous skin that marks a life of physical toil. Instead, their physical existence is one of constant warmth, abundant sustenance, and carefully managed ease, a stark contrast to the brutal, unvarnished reality faced by their peasant counterparts. Their nurseries and private chambers are sanctuaries of warmth and softness. Dedicated nurses and wet nurses ensure they are fed with the finest, most nourishing foods. Their clothing is of the softest linen and wool, often lined with fur, protecting them from the slightest chill. toys, elaborately carved wooden animals, dolls dressed in miniature court attire, and perhaps even small illuminated manuscripts designed for children fill their days with gentle amusement. There is no urgency in their play, no underlying pressure of contribution. Their early years are designed for healthy growth and development free from the crushing weight of immediate survival. You might reflect with a wry detached wit that the most strenuous activity your royal offspring might engage in is less about surviving the elements and more about mastering the delicate art of coaxing a meticulously groomed poodle to play, or the intellectual strain of learning their alphabet. As they grow, their education begins in earnest, a comprehensive formal program, utterly unlike the informal survival-focused learning of peasant children. They are not merely taught by their parents, but by a carefully selected retinue of tutors and scholars drawn from the brightest minds in your kingdom and beyond. Latin, the language of the church and of scholarship, is a cornerstone of their early studies, essential for understanding scripture history and communicating with the wider European intellectual elite. They delve deep into scripture not just for spiritual guidance, but for the moral and ethical foundations of kingship learning, the stories of biblical rulers, and the divine sanction for their own authority. History, too, is a crucial subject, teaching them the triumphs and failures of past monarchs, the intricate lineage of their own house, and the geopolitical landscape of their ancestors. The arts are not neglected. They might learn to play a lute or a recorder to sing, or to appreciate the intricate beauty of illuminated manuscripts and tapestries. This aesthetic education is designed to cultivate refinement to mark them as cultured and discerning rulers, distinguishing them further from the perceived coarseness of the common folk. For the boys, this academic rigour is coupled with intense rigorous martial training. From a young age they learn horsemanship, swordsmanship and strategy, not in the rough-and-tumble way of a village brawl, but under the careful guidance of master-at-arms preparing them for their inevitable roles as military leaders and protectors of the realm. Every swing of a wooden sword, every lesson in cavalry formation is tailored to prepare them for the battlefield, for commanding armies, and for embodying the martial prowess expected of a king. For the girls, while martial training is absent, the focus shifts to courtly etiquette, and the intricate dance of social and political manoeuvring within the royal sphere. They learn languages, needlework, music, and the delicate art of conversation, all designed to make them suitable consorts, skilled diplomats and intelligent managers of royal households. Their upbringing is a rigorous preparation for their roles as strategic pawns in dynastic alliances, as mothers of future heirs, and as figures of grace and influence within the court. Every aspect of their education, from the books they read to the skills they acquire, is meticulously tailored to prepare them for roles of immense power and influence, ensuring the continuation of your lineage and the stability of your realm. Their childhood is not about personal desires. It is about dynastic purpose, a carefully crafted journey towards a preordained destiny of command and responsibility. This preparation begins even earlier with their immediate immersion into the strict protocols of court life. Even before the formal lessons in Latin and swordsmanship truly began, your childhood, as royal offspring, was an early and profound immersion in the elaborate, often bewildering rituals and strict protocol of court life. You didn't just learn about the court. You lived it, breathed it, and were subtly yet fundamentally shaped by its every intricate movement. From the earliest age you can remember, your world was defined by a constant stream of formal ceremonies, hushed whispers, and the rigid choreography of power. You learned quickly that life in the palace isn't just about comfort. It's about order, precision, and an almost sacred adherence to unspoken rules that govern every interaction, every gesture, every moment of your waking day. It's like being born onto a meticulously prepared stage and learning your part through constant immersive observation. You watch the king your father with a mixture of awe and growing understanding. You observe the meticulous attention paid to his every move, not just by his closest advisors, but by every servant, every noble, every visiting dignitary. You see how his entrance into a room can silence a bustling crowd, how a slight nod from him can send a page scurrying, how his mere presence can resolve a dispute or inspire a fearful reverence. You notice the way courtiers bow, the precise depth and duration of their genuflection, the carefully chosen words of address. It's a masterclass in performed authority, a constant living lesson in the immense weight of the crown and the profound impact of a monarch's will. You absorb these subtle cues, the unspoken language of power, long before you can fully articulate their meaning. This immersion isn't a passive experience. It's an active, albeit often unconscious education in dynastic purpose. You're not simply a child. You are a prince or a princess, a living extension of the royal lineage, a future pillar of the realm. Every aspect of your upbringing, from the clothes you wear to the food you eat, is designed to reinforce this inescapable destiny. You learn that your actions reflect not just on yourself, but on your entire house, on the stability of the kingdom itself. A childish tantrum might be met with a stern look, not just because it's unbecoming, but because it challenges the very order you are meant to embody. You grasp perhaps vaguely at first, then with increasing clarity, that your life is not entirely your own. It is a vital component in the ongoing saga of your dynasty. You're taught implicitly and explicitly the subtleties of power dynamics. Who stands where in the presence of the king? Who speaks first? Who can address whom without formal invitation? These are not trivial details. They are crucial markers of status and influence. You learn to navigate this intricate web, to observe the silent battles for favour, the careful positioning, the strategic whispers. You come to understand that a smile from a powerful duke might mean one thing, while a similar smile from a lesser noble means entirely another. It's like learning a complex language, where the true meaning often lies beneath the surface in the inflection, the context, the unstated implication. You learn quickly that laughing at the wrong joke might not earn you a beating, but it could certainly earn a frosty glare from your governess, or a subtle social snub from a more senior courtier, a lesson in the high stakes of courtly interaction. The concept of symbolic display becomes second nature to you. You see how your mother the queen adorns herself not just for beauty but to project wealth, piety and fertility. You understand that the grandeur of the palace, the richness of the tapestries, the sparkle of the jewels, all serve a purpose beyond mere aesthetics. They are conscious projections of power, stability and divine favour designed to impress, to intimidate, and to inspire loyalty. Your own clothing, even as a child, is often elaborate and formal, not for comfort, but to mark you as a member of the royal house. You are in essence a living, breathing part of this symbolic architecture, a physical manifestation of your family's enduring power. This profound immersion in dynastic purpose and the constant performance of royalty stands in stark, almost heartbreaking contrast to the peasant child's immediate and unyielding practical training. While they learn to wield a hoe, you learn to wield the subtle, intricate tools of power, a preparation for a lifetime of ruling. As you've now intimately navigated the vastly different daily realities from the damp straw of a peasant's hut to the perfumed silks of a royal chamber, from arduous toil to strategic governance, you begin to recognize that these individual experiences, however profound, were merely reflections of something far grander and more unyielding. Your lives, whether marked by the mud of the fields or the polished stone of the castle, were ultimately shaped by the larger foundational structures of your world. These were the immutable conditions, the systemic constraints that dictated not just your routines and immediate circumstances, but the very essence of your existence, defining who you were, what you could achieve, and where you would ultimately belong. This was medieval Europe, a continent built upon a rigid, inescapable social hierarchy, a pyramid of power that fixed your destiny from the moment you drew your first breath. Imagine this society as a massive, unyielding pyramid constructed not of stone but of human lives. At its very apex, shimmering with a perceived divine light, stood the king. Your king in theory was the embodiment of God's will on earth, holding absolute power by divine right. This position was often bolstered by the imperial court, a complex web of advisors, administrators, and powerful churchmen who helped manage the vast machinery of the realm. Below this sacred pinnacle, the pyramid broadened slightly to encompass the high nobility, the dukes, earls, and barons, powerful landowners who controlled vast swathes of territory and commanded their own retinues of knights. They were your loyal vassals, sworn to your service, but often ambitious and capable of challenging your authority if they sensed weakness. Further down, the lesser nobility, primarily the knights, formed the military backbone, serving as armed retainers for you or your lords, enforcing order and collecting dues. Interwoven throughout these layers, the clergy, bishops, abbots, and priests, held immense spiritual and often temporal power, shaping the moral landscape and owning significant portions of land. This rigid structure dictated your fixed destiny from birth, a concept that would seem unfathomable in a modern world valuing individual choice and upward mobility. For a medieval individual, your place was largely set with minimal, almost miraculous opportunity to ascend beyond the station of your birth. The vast, unyielding base of this societal pyramid, supporting all the layers above it, consisted of the peasantry. You were among them, the overwhelming majority of the population. This broad category included serfs legally bound to the land you worked, unable to leave without your lord's permission, a form of inherited servitude. It also included free tenants, who held slightly more rights and freedom, but were still tied to the land through rents and obligations. Regardless of your precise status, you, the peasant, formed the absolute economic backbone of society. Every loaf of bread, every measure of grain, every piece of wool produced came from your tireless labour. Yet despite this utterly crucial role in sustaining the entire social order, you possessed the fewest rights and endured the harshest conditions. Your life was a constant cycle of obligation to those above you, to the Lord for the land, to the church for your soul, and to the king for the overall stability of the realm. Below the nobility, and slowly beginning to carve out their own niches as towns and cities grew, were the emerging urban classes, the artisans, skilled craftspeople like blacksmiths, weavers, and carpenters, whose trades were essential for daily life, and the merchants, traders who moved goods and ideas across regions, slowly accumulating wealth and influence. Their status was rising, offering a faint glimmer of alternative paths, but still fell significantly below the landed gentry. At the very fringes of this defined society existed a small number of outcasts, beggars, wanderers, those without land or family, or individuals who had somehow fallen outside the social norms. Their presence served as a stark reminder of the harsh consequences of failing to fit into the established order, highlighting the clear, often brutal boundaries of medieval society. Despite these vast disparities, each class played a specific interdependent role. You, the king, relied entirely on the nobility's loyalty and more fundamentally on the peasants' labour to generate the wealth and resources that sustained your court and armies. The nobles in turn relied on your authority to legitimise their own power over their lands and peasants. And you, the peasant, your very survival depended on the often harsh yet theoretically stable order maintained by the ruling classes. This system, though deeply unfair and brutal in its execution, was fundamentally interconnected, creating a constant tension between the obligations imposed from above and the desperate struggle for survival from below. It was a delicate, often violent balance where the breakdown of one part could cascade throughout the entire structure. This deeply entrenched social structure, this inescapable hierarchy, formed the bedrock upon which the entire economy of scarcity and control was built, shaping every aspect of resource management for every single individual. With the grand, unyielding pyramid of social hierarchy firmly established, your existence, regardless of your station, was then fundamentally shaped by the core economy of medieval Europe. This wasn't an economy driven by factories or intricate global markets in the modern sense. No, the primary economic driver across this vast continent was unequivocally agriculture. Your world revolved around the soil, the sun and the rain, a rhythm dictated by the seasons and the demands of cultivation. Wealth, power and sustenance were all fundamentally derived from land ownership and its produce. You might think of land as the ultimate medieval cryptocurrency, its value immutable, its power undeniable. For the vast majority, including yourself as a peasant grain, barley, rye, oats, formed the bedrock of daily sustenance. It wasn't just food, it was in effect the most common currency for the masses. You paid your rents in bushels of grain, you bartered for goods with sacks of oats, and your ability to survive the winter was measured by the size of your grain stores. This vital resource, however, did not remain in the hands of those who laboured to produce it. Instead, through a complex and often brutal system of feudal land ownership, resources flowed inexorably upwards, predominantly controlled by the nobility and the church. You worked the land, but the fruits of that labour were in large part not yours. This upward flow of wealth was the lifeblood of the ruling classes sustaining their opulent lifestyles, their armies, and their lavish displays of power. It's an economic model that ensured the rich got richer, and the poor remained bound to the soil. Adding to the heavy burden of simply existing, a multi-layered system of taxation universally weighed down the peasant class. Imagine not just one, but several different entities all demanding a piece of your hard-won produce. First, there was the mandatory tithe, a deeply entrenched obligation to the church. You were required to surrender 1/10 of all your produce, your grain, your eggs, your livestock, to the local parish. It was a spiritual tax intended to support the clergy and maintain the religious institutions, but it was a very real, very tangible drain on your already meagre resources. You would often deliver it directly to the church barn, a silent offering that represented a significant portion of your family's future meals. Beyond the church's demands, you faced various feudal fees known as banalities. These were charges levied by your local lord for the use of essential services that he and only he provided. You had no choice but to use the lord's mill to grind your grain, paying a fee in flour or grain for the privilege. Your bread had to be baked in the lord's communal oven again for a price. If you wished to press grapes for wine or apples for cider, you had to use the lord's wine press, incurring yet another fee. These weren't optional amenities, they were monopolies strategically placed at every critical point of your production and consumption, designed to extract maximum value from your labour. And then there were often direct taxes to the lord or even to the king, unpredictable levies for wars or special projects adding another layer of financial constraint. These obligations, inflexible even in the face of bad harvests or natural disasters, were a relentless source of hardship, pushing you ever closer to destitution. You'd quickly realise that a bad harvest, far from bringing a reprieve, only intensified the Lord's demands and the fear in your heart. For you, the peasant economic life was a constant struggle against scarcity. You lived hand to mouth, relying on meagre local resources, often unable to afford even the most basic comforts that a modern mind takes for granted. A new tool, a better cloak, even a small indulgence was almost certainly beyond your reach. Your life was defined by what you lacked by the constant gnawing worry of famine and cold. For the king, however, the economy was not about scarcity, but about displaying abundance and control. His vast wealth accumulated through taxes, levies and land ownership allowed him to command exotic goods from across the known world. Silk from far-off Byzantium, intricate and soft, draped his chambers. Spices from the east, valued literally more expensive than gold, flavoured his every meal. These were not mere purchases. They were statements acquired through extensive costly trade networks, funded by the very resources extracted from your labour. The king's table, laden with these imports, was a daily performance of his limitless power, a stark contrast to your own battle against the omnipresent reality of not enough. This economic chasm between endless hunger and opulent excess was further reinforced by the king's ultimate grip on the very mechanisms of commerce. Your gaze as the king stretches beyond the overflowing coffers of your personal wealth and the abundant displays at your table. Your true economic power lies in something far more fundamental, ultimate control over the realm's financial mechanisms. You are in essence the central bank, the treasury, and the chief economic strategist, all embodied in your single royal person. This formidable authority includes the exclusive right to mint coins. Every silver penny, every gold florin that changes hands within your kingdom bears your likeness, your crest, your symbols of power. It's a constant, tangible reminder to every subject, from the wealthiest merchant to the poorest serf, that the very medium of exchange originates from your decree. You literally put the coin in your domain, a subtle but undeniable assertion of your pervasive economic presence. But your control extends beyond mere minting. It delves into the very intrinsic value of that currency. You possess the formidable and often dangerous ability to debase currency. This is not about making coins less shiny, but about strategically reducing the precious metal content within each coin, replacing it with cheaper base metals. Why would you do this? Perhaps your treasury is depleted after a costly war, or you need to fund a grand new castle project, or simply you desire to mint more coins from the existing supply of silver or gold. It's a medieval form of economic manipulation, a lever that can for a time fill your coffers. However, you're keenly aware of the delicate balance debasement invariably leads to inflation. Goods become more expensive, your subjects' savings lose value, and the economic landscape shifts beneath their feet. This directly impacts the wealth of your nobles, whose fixed rents might suddenly buy less and more critically. It significantly increases the burdens on your peasants, who see their meagre earnings buy even less sustenance. Your decisions made in the quiet of your counting house ripple outwards a wave of economic consequence that can lift some and crush many others. Furthermore, your power as king grants you extensive control over trade and commerce, both within and beyond your borders. Through royal decrees, you can establish new markets, grant monopolies to favoured merchants, or restrict the sale of certain goods. You can impose tariffs on imported goods, shaping the flow of exotic silks, valuable spices, or essential timber into your realm. These regulations are not just about collecting revenue. They are tools of economic statecraft, allowing you to favour certain industries, protect local producers, or punish rivals. If you desire figs from Iberia, your decree opens the routes. If you wish to limit the import of foreign cloth to boost your own weavers, your word becomes law. These decisions, made from the splendid isolation of your throne room, are far from abstract. They directly impact the wealth and livelihoods of your merchants, the prices in your village markets, and the overall economic health or hardship of your subjects. The king's far-reaching economic power, from the minting of coins to the regulation of distant trade routes, underscores his absolute dominion, shaping not just the grand narratives of the kingdom, but the most intimate financial realities of every man, woman, and child within his lands. These immense foundational realities, the inescapable social hierarchy, the agrarian economy, and the relentless threats of nature, were not simply abstract concepts. They were the very soil and climate in which life grew, defining the absolute boundaries of what was possible. As you reflect on how your existence was so thoroughly governed by these macro-level forces, it becomes clear that these weren't merely passive conditions. No, they were actively enforced and shaped by concrete mechanisms of power and control. Your daily life, whether privileged or painful, was defined by legal boundaries, social expectations, and the ultimate consequences for those who navigated or dared to challenge this rigid system. The king's precarious absolute rule, managed through a complex bureaucracy, ensured that even his divine right was a delicate balancing act, while local lords wielded immediate, often brutal power over their peasants. enforced by knights who served as both law and administrators. Punishments were public and severe, from poaching carrying the death penalty to collective responsibility binding communities, all underscored by sumptuary laws that even dictated what colours you could wear, rigidly maintaining social distinctions. Within this iron framework of power and control, a complex social fabric emerged, weaving together the unspoken rules of culture, etiquette, and personal relationships that profoundly shaped the inner worlds and public identities of all individuals. For the peasant, communication was sparse and practical, a grunt or a nod amidst the rhythm of labour, while cultural discipline lay in oral traditions by firelight and communal festivals that offered vital if fleeting release. Their faith was syncretic, a lived reality entwined with daily struggles and superstitions. For survival and marriage was a pragmatic alliance for labour. For the king, interactions were controlled performances, courtly etiquette a high-stakes dance, where a misstep could have severe consequences. His cultural life was grand spectacle, from elaborate entremets to chess played for intellect and social standing. His faith was political, a tool for legitimacy and control, complete with elaborate rituals and medical beliefs, and his marriage a strategic dynastic instrument. Across both classes, agency for women was severely constrained and romantic love often confined to the realm of fiction, highlighting a universal limitation within the overarching structure. From the quiet endurance of the collective village identity to the king's dynastic continuity, where public reputation was paramount and every action a performance, medieval life was a tapestry woven with threads of hardship and privilege. It was a world where power cascaded downwards, where justice was swift and often arbitrary for the many, and where discontent, though present, was almost invariably met with swift, brutal suppression, reminding you of the futility of resistance. Even the internal stability of the kingdom rested on the king's constant manoeuvring to manage rebellious barons, the ronin of his realm, who could challenge his authority. This intricate dance of governance, human interaction, and the unyielding hand of fate ultimately bound both the anonymous labourer and the adorned ruler, each navigating their existence under the same indifferent sun, forever separated yet inextricably linked by the very essence of their shared medieval world. As the last echoes of the king's decrees and the peasant's unending toil begin to fade, allow your mind to gently drift from the stark realities of medieval Europe. We've journeyed through a world defined by its intricate, unyielding social hierarchy, a vast system that fixed individuals into their roles from birth. You've tasted the grit of peasant bread, and inhaled the perfumed air of a royal chamber, felt the damp chill of a shared hut, and the luxurious warmth of a goose-down bed. We've witnessed the relentless pursuit of calories, the theatrical displays of abundance, the constant grime of daily existence, and the meticulous rituals of pampered cleanliness. You've imagined the aching muscles of ceaseless labour, and the heavy unseen burden of symbolic performance, the stark contrast between a childhood of early toil and one of privileged formal learning. Now, as the long shadows of the past recede, come back to the quiet comfort of your own space. Feel the softness of your modern bedding, appreciate the predictable warmth or coolness of your room, and inhale the clean neutral air around you. Let the faint sounds of your present world, the gentle hum of an appliance, the distant murmur of traffic, the profound silence, wash over you a soothing balm after our journey through a harsher time. There is no leaky roof dripping into a tin bowl tonight, no acrid smoke stinging your eyes, no gnawing hunger to keep you awake. You are safe, warm and well-fed luxuries beyond the wildest dreams of countless souls from centuries past. Allow the images of kings and peasants, of grand castles and humble hovels, to soften around the edges, blending into the tapestry of history that now wraps gently around your consciousness. Remember the quiet dignity of endurance, the resilience of the human spirit, and the profound, often challenging beauty of a world so different from your own. As your eyelids grow heavy and your thoughts begin to slow, let the gentle whispers of this distant past lull you into a deep, peaceful slumber. The struggles of medieval life are far behind you, replaced by the profound tranquility of your present moment.